So we are now 11 months into Ruben Amorim's tenure as Manchester United manager. And so far, I think it is time for us to start having a conversation around how this has been, what we think about his tenure so far. And this is by no means calling for him to be sacked, calling for a managerial change or anything, because that's the last thing I want to see at Manchester United. Like, I'm tired. I think we're all tired of going through several managers that we all just hope that someone comes in and is successful. But at some point, the truth is that at some point, if we keep on seeing the issues we are seeing right now, it is inevitable. We would have to make that decision. Ineos would have to make that decision and let him go and bring someone else in. Sometimes in as much as someone else tries, it just doesn't work. It just goes back to the same thing I said about Bruno in my last video I made. Sometimes you just have to let it go. But in this video, it's gonna be a little bit different from what I usually do, because I'm going to talk about some of the issues, some of the things going on around the club right now. But I'm also going to talk about the game coming up on Saturday during the weekend against Sunderland. But like I said, Ruben Amorim right now, he's one of the main orchestrators of his problems at Manchester United. And when I talk about this, how is he doing this? By his selections, the players he's picking to play certain positions, the substitutions that he's making, like the things he say. He's the main orchestrator of some of his problems, and that might get him sacked at some point. It is going to get him sacked if he keeps on doing that. We cannot even sugarcoat it. We all know that our main problem at Manchester United is in the midfield. It is in the midfield. I watched the game again, the Barcelona versus PSG game, and I sat back and I looked at my midfield and I was like, oh my God, this is fucked up, Like, you look at other teams' midfielders and then you look at yours and it's like, Jesus wept, I wept. I wept, I could cry. You look at the likes of Fabian Ruiz getting substituted. Like, those are the guys that lead the midfield. They are getting substituted. Pedri is getting substituted against PSG. But you come to Manchester United and we have Bruno and he's untouchable. We have Ugarte. You're going into a game against Manchester City, against Arsenal, and you're asking yourself if you're going to play Casemiro, who is old, or you're going to play Manuel Ugarte, who cannot keep the ball, or you're going to play Mbeumo, who is very young. And I'm not even saying age is like, but Mbeumo needs someone to play alongside him. He cannot do it on his own. But those are the type of conversations that we are having as Manchester United fans. And then you look at it and it's like, how are we expected to win games with such a midfield? Because everything goes through the midfield. If your midfield is leaking, you're going to be drinking goals. If they cannot keep the ball, you guys are going to be constantly on the back foot. You're going to be constantly defending. And that's just where we find ourselves. I could not believe that going into a game against Brentford, I was begging for Casemiro to be available. Casemiro of all players, because I don't want to see Ugarte. That's just where we are. But that's where our problem is. And we went into the summer, everyone insisted on the fact that we should have got a midfielder. I didn't care. I know we wanted Baleba, but you cannot tell me that there's no other player out there who could have came in instead of Baleba. Ineos insisted on Baleba. I don't know if they even really wanted to get Baleba, or they knew that we were not getting him and it was just like a strategy to get him next season or what. But we needed a midfielder. We went for Conor Gallagher, and Atletico Madrid said they were not loaning him out. They wanted to sell him on a permanent transfer. And we didn't want to get him when we knew we needed him. If we're going to play with two midfielders, we need two defensive-minded midfielders who can also keep the ball and who can progress the ball, who can pass the ball forward. We don't have that. Bruno can pass the ball, Bruno can create, but Bruno cannot defend. Casemiro can do a little bit of all, but then he's old. He's not mobile. He cannot play in the midfield too. He cannot do a job in the midfield too. Mbeumo He's young, inexperienced, and he doesn't have the legs so it's just, I don't even want to talk about Ugarte, but our problems are in the midfield. And now this raises the question where we ask ourselves, should Bruno Fernandes have been sold during the summer for the 100 million we got offered and then brought in 2 new midfielders? I'm going to be honest and say that I was one of the people who were like, we should keep him. But if the manager says he should be sold, I back the manager. I was one of the people who absolutely said so. I'm not going to act like I wanted Bruno to be sold. No. Like we've been saying it, he's our best player because he's our best player because he's the one who turns up. But this season, it's not it. It's not working. He's been playing in the position that he's not. It is not his strength. It is not where he's used to playing. He cannot do anything from that position. So it is just not working. If anything, he's costing us points and he's our captain. You know? So it raises those questions. And that's why it leads me to this question. If we lose the game against Sunderland, where do we go from here? I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If we lose the game against Sunderland, where do we go from here? Because it's like Sunderland are one of the teams that at the start of the season, I made a video, like my opening video, I said that if you look at the recruitment that they've gone out and recruited, the likes of Andingra, the likes of Granit Xhaka, I think that was like a statement signing to go to Bayer Leverkusen and get Granit Xhaka. Someone who won them the league. You know, he left Arsenal, went there, he won them the league, and then Bayer Leverkusen goes there and say, give me Granit Xhaka. He has that Premier League experience. So to go out there and tell Bayer Leverkusen we want one of your best players is a statement signing. And you can see it. You can see it in everything he does in the team right now. So I said Sunderland are one of those clubs that have been promoted and it's like they are here to stay. Someone else has to be relegated this season. The 3 teams that get promoted will not get relegated. Someone else has to get relegated. I don't know if it's going to be us. God forbid it's us. But I don't see how we beat Sunderland on Sunday. And this is me being honest. I hate to say it as a Manchester United fan, but I hate to say it, but I have to be honest and say I don't see how we beat them. If we get something out of it, the most I can see is us getting a draw. And the reason why we can be getting a draw against Sunderland is because we play at home and we have the home fans behind us. We've been getting that home support nowadays at Old Trafford, like this season at Old Trafford. We've been getting that home support. It's loud, it's massive, it's helping. But that's the only advantage we have over Sunderland going into this game. It's going to be a difficult game. It's going to be very difficult. I thought we could even win Brentford, make it back-to-back wins, carry that momentum into this game and see if we can scrap a win. But with the defeat against Brentford, it just puts us in a tough position, you know. Puts us in a tough position. And I saw a tweet by Laura Whitwell that confirmed the fact that Manchester United, they are trying to organize like midweek friendlies. And they were exploring going to Saudi Arabia. I know that I said this 1 game a week is boring, but please, you can't even beat teams in the Prem. Why are you exploring midweek friendlies for money? It is a football club. It is not a financial institution. It is a football club. And then you can't even blame people when they start to look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe like the same way they look at the Glazers, because he's just doing the same thing they were doing in a different format. I would call it Glazers 2.0, you know? We're talking about more time to train, and now we're talking about exploring midweek fixtures, taking players all the way to Saudi Arabia, and then they come back and they have injuries, and then you start hearing about player fatigue. No! Let them win games, let them train, let them play. The club already generates so much money. You guys didn't even qualify for the Champions League, but we made about 600 million. Most clubs don't make that, if any does even. But that's how much we generate. But we're chasing extra income here and there. It is good for the club financially, but where we are right now, we are not in a position to be looking at that. We should be looking at how to get better on the pitch. So please, just win some games. Win back-to-back games. Win 5 games in a row. So United Strand can get a haircut. Win 5 games in a row. Or just win 2. My God. But I'm going to talk about, like I said, going into this game, I don't see how we win. If we win, we're lucky. Like, I will take the 3 points. I'll be happy with it. But I don't see how we win. And I'm going to talk about my first 11 for this weekend. Last time I said the only way we see Sunderland coming is if Baindi makes a mistake. Is now the time for him to come in? We're playing at home. Sunderland is a very good team. But I don't think that pressure will be too much for him to come in. Baindi has already made another mistake. There's no point sticking with him, Ruben Amorim, at this point, you're desperate to win games. So play the players who you think would come in and do a job. Baindi, if he plays and he makes another mistake, we're used to it. It's normal. At that point, they're going to blame you because it's what we see time and time again, and you were given a new goalkeeper. Play the new goalkeeper. If he makes errors, then we just say, okay, maybe it's a Man United curse when it comes to goalkeepers, but play the young guy. De Gea came in, he had to learn on the job. Play him. So, for me, I'll go with Sunderland's goal. I would bring back the back 3 of Lenny, Euro, Delete, and Shaw. This Delete and Maguire thing is not working. They are like similar profiles. Playing in the back 3, it doesn't work. So Euro, Delete, Luke Shaw, while we pray and hope for Martinez to come back sooner. Wing backs, I'll still say it. I love Ahmad, and I think he should be the one starting at wing back because we should get a better wing back like next season. But right now, the best option we have at wing back is Ahmad. All these Dalot, Mazwari thing, Dalot is the worst. I don't want to see him. But I would go with Ahmad at wing back and Dogu on the other side. That's his position. I don't think that's a debate. Dogu, Ahmad. In midfield, Casemiro is back from a suspension. It was a 1-game suspension, thank God. So he's back for this game. So I would go with Casemiro. And a lot of people will not like this, but I will still play Bruno because who do we play? We don't have the profiles. We don't have the players. So Casemiro and Bruno in midfield. 2 players who should not be playing in the midfield for Manchester United. You look at the likes of, in fact, I don't need to name it, but just look at other teams and look at ours. And it's like, you can just get down on your knees and start crying. The front 3, our 200 million pound players. So mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko for the front 3. Put them in. Sesko got his first goal. Hopefully, that's the first of many. Like we said, we don't want the same thing that happened to Højlund, who is right now, who is firing for Napoli. We don't want the same thing to happen to Højlund. He needs to get up and running. We need to get some points. I don't care how we get it. If it's like diamond wins like Liverpool did, if it's by red cards, if it's by PGO, MOL helping us, I don't care. Just get some points. Get some points. Get the media off our back. Get the pressure off the players. But yeah, let's see how the game goes this weekend. For my prediction, I would go with a 2-2 draw. I hate to say it, but I'll go with a 2-2 draw. Sunderland is they're just so tough. And you look at their last couple of fixtures. You look at their last couple of results. They had their last game. They had a 1-0 win against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest who qualified for the Champions League last season. They had a 1-1 draw despite being 1 man down against Aston Villa in the first half. They had the red card in the first half. They had a 0-0 draw against Crystal Palace. They had a 2-1 win against Brentford. They had a 2-0 loss against Burnley. They had a 3-0 win against West Ham. So in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, in their last 6 games, they've lost 1. They've won 3. And they've drawn 2. Man United, we have, I don't even want to talk. They've had 11 points. This is a crazy start. This is a crazy start that you hear, and it's like, sometimes you would hear one start, you would think it's crazy, and then you hear another one, and then it's like, which one is crazier? Because the other start, the one I talked about last time was, we talked about the one where Man United hasn't won back-to-back games since Ruben Amorim came in as manager. And then this is another one. Sunderland now has 11 points. Despite coming into the Premier League this season, we've had 12 points since the start of April. That's last season. April, May, June, July, August, September. We are now in October. That is 6 months. In the space of 6 months, we've only had 1 point more than Sunderland. And I think we've had, like, aside the teams that got promoted this season, we've probably had the worst point tally. But, yeah, like I said, give me your predictions going into the weekend. I don't have that much hope. I hope we do get the 3 points. But I cannot lie and tell you guys that, okay, it is looking good, because it is not looking good. Hopefully we get the win. But good luck on the weekend, and please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you've watched this video right up to this point. Thank you.